Hey y'all. Tonight we wake up in the heart of a city unlike any other, Tenochtitlan, the jewel of the Aztec Empire, shimmering on a lake like a dream made of stone and water. Imagine the sun just peeking over the horizon, casting golden light on towering temples, bustling markets, and canals filled with canoes gliding silently through the mist. You probably won't survive this journey without feeling the pulse of a world that vanished almost overnight, swallowed by conquest and time. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. Let's see how far and wide this story reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through the early morning streets of Tenochtitlan, the city alive with the scent of fresh maize, roasting chilies, and the faint tang of lake water. Vendors shout their wares, from colorful feathers to obsidian blades, while priests in feathered headdresses prepare for the day's rituals atop the grand temples. The city is a marvel, built on a swampy island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, connected by causeways and canals that shimmer like veins of silver in the dawn light. You might think a city built on water would be fragile, but no, this place pulses with life and power. The central temple, the Templo Mayor, towers above everything else. Its twin shrines dedicated to Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and sun, and Tlaloc, the rain god, dominate the skyline. You watch as priests ascend the steps, their sandals silent on the stone, carrying offerings for the gods. The air buzzes with anticipation because today is a festival day, one of many that punctuate Aztec life with color, music, and sacrifice. Yes, sacrifice, something that makes many modern folks squirm, but here it's a sacred duty, a way to keep the gods happy and the sun rising. Historians still argue whether the Aztecs' ritual sacrifices were primarily religious devotion or a political tool to maintain control and instill fear. Either way, the spectacle is undeniable. You catch the glint of a jaguar pelt worn by a warrior passing by, and the distant beat of drums that seem to echo the heartbeat of the city itself. As you wander, you notice the marketplace, one of the largest in the world at this time. Vendors sell everything from cacao beans, the currency of the empire, to exotic birds and woven textiles. The noise is a lively chaos, a symphony of haggling voices, clinking pottery, and the occasional squawk of a caged parrot. You might chuckle to yourself, imagining the ancient version of a Black Friday sale. But here, the stakes are life and survival. A quirky little tidbit. Did you know that Aztec merchants, called Pochteca, were not just traders, but spies? They gathered intelligence for the empire while traveling far and wide. So, every time you buy a handmade cloth, you might be unknowingly supporting a covert operation. Talk about shopping with a side of espionage. The city's layout is a marvel of engineering. Canals crisscross the island, allowing canoes to ferry people and goods swiftly. Chinampas, floating gardens built on the lake, burst with crops, feeding the city's millions. You dip your fingers into the cool water, feeling the life beneath the surface. It's hard to imagine that this vibrant metropolis will soon face a storm unlike any it has known. You pause to watch a group of children playing a ball game called Tlachtli, their laughter ringing out. The game is more than sport. It's a ritual with cosmic significance, symbolizing the struggle between day and night, life and death. You might wonder how many of these kids will grow up to be warriors, priests, or farmers. The city is a living organism, each person a vital cell. As the sun climbs higher, you realize that the city's beauty masks a fragile peace. Rumors drift in from the edges of the empire about strange men arriving from across the sea, pale, armored, and riding beasts that snort fire and smoke. You shake your head, dismissing the tales as superstition. After all, you've survived droughts, rebellions, and rival tribes. How could a few foreigners change everything? But the whispers grow louder, and the gods seem restless. You shiver, not from the morning chill, but from a creeping sense of unease. The city's heartbeat quickens, and you wonder if you'll live to see the next sunrise. You step back in time, tracing the footsteps of your ancestors, the Mexica, who journeyed for decades before founding this very city on a swampy island in the middle of Lake Texcoco. It's hard to imagine now, but they were once a wandering tribe, often overlooked and underestimated by the powerful city-states that surrounded them. Their story begins with a prophecy, a vision of an eagle perched on a prickly pear cactus, devouring a snake. This image, emblazoned in your mind like a tattoo of destiny, guided them to settle here, where they would build Tenochtitlan, the place of the prickly pear cactus. The migration wasn't a leisurely stroll. You can almost feel the dust under your sandals, the sun beating down as your people cross deserts and mountains, facing hunger, hostility, and uncertainty. Historians still argue whether the Mexica were refugees fleeing conflict or opportunistic settlers seeking power. Either way, their arrival on the island was a bold gamble, transforming marshland into a thriving city through sheer determination and ingenious engineering. You imagine the early days, wooden stakes driven into the lake bed to create chinampas, those famous floating gardens that would feed the growing population. The smell of fresh earth, the splash of water as canoes glide by, the chatter of families building homes from reeds and mud. The city was born from water and willpower. The Mexica were not the first to inhabit the valley, but their rise was swift and strategic. They forged alliances, sometimes through marriage, often through war, gradually expanding their influence. You can almost hear the clash of obsidian blades and the rallying cries of warriors as they carved out an empire that would dominate central Mexico. A quirky fact, the Mexica were initially considered outsiders and even servants by some of the older city-states. Their language, Nahuatl, was seen as rough, and their customs were mocked. Yet, they turned this underdog status into a fierce identity, embracing the eagle and jaguar as symbols of strength and agility. Talk about turning the tables on your haters. You stroll past the ruins of earlier civilizations like the Toltecs, whose art and religion heavily influenced the Mexica. It's like walking through a layered cake of history, each civilization adding a new flavor. The Mexica absorbed and adapted, creating a culture that was both a continuation and a revolution. The city's layout reflects this blend of old and new. The central precinct, with its temples and palaces, is a testament to the Mexica's ambition. You can almost hear the chants and drums echoing across the plazas, the rhythmic heartbeat of a people who believed they were chosen by the gods to rule. Historians still debate how much of the Mexica's rise was driven by divine destiny versus ruthless politics. Maybe it was a bit of both, faith fueling ambition, ambition shaping faith. You feel the weight of that legacy as you walk the streets, knowing that every stone here tells a story of struggle and triumph. As the sun dips lower, casting long shadows over the city, you reflect on how this island, once a humble refuge, became the center of a vast empire. The Mexica's journey is a reminder that even the smallest beginnings can lead to greatness if you have the courage to seize your moment. You find yourself drawn into the mysterious world of gods and omens, where every sunrise and shadow carries a message from the divine. The Aztec pantheon is a sprawling family reunion of deities, each with their quirks and tempers. Huitzilopochtli, the hummingbird god of war and sun, demands blood and victory. Tlaloc, the rain god, controls the skies and can unleash deadly storms. And Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, embodies wisdom and creation. You can almost hear the whispered prayers and the crackle of burning copal incense rising from the temples. The city breathes with ritual. You watch priests adorned in vibrant feathers and jaguar skins perform ceremonies atop the Templo Mayor, their chants weaving through the air like an ancient melody. The scent of burning copal mingles with the sharp tang of fresh blood, a reminder that sacrifice is the currency of favor here. It's a world where the gods' hunger is real and unending, and the sun's journey across the sky depends on human offerings. You might cringe at the thought of ritual sacrifice, but remember, in this culture, it's not mere brutality. It's a vital act to maintain cosmic order. Historians still argue whether these sacrifices were primarily religious acts or political tools to reinforce power and social cohesion. Either way, the spectacle is a powerful reminder of the Aztecs' deep connection to their gods. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Aztec priests used a form of crocodile dung as sunscreen and insect repellent. Imagine the smell. It's a strange mix of practical and ritualistic, showing how intertwined daily life was with the sacred. You might wonder how effective it was, probably better than nothing under the harsh sun. Omens and prophecies are everywhere. You overhear a conversation about a comet seen streaking across the night sky. A bad sign, many say. Others whisper about a solar eclipse that darkened the city, stirring fear and speculation. These celestial events are read as messages from the gods, warnings of change or disaster. You feel the tension in the air, a collective unease that something monumental is about to unfold. The Aztecs believed the world had been created and destroyed several times, each era ending in catastrophe. They lived in the fifth sun, aware that their time might be limited. This awareness shapes everything, from their art to their rituals to their fierce warrior culture. You sense that the gods' favor is fickle, and the city's fate hangs by a thread. As night falls, you hear the distant beat of drums and the sharp cry of a priest's chant. The gods are restless, and so are you. The whispers of omens grow louder, threading through the city like a shadow. You wonder if the gods are warning you or condemning you. You slip deeper into the rhythm of daily life in Tenochtitlan, feeling the city's pulse through its people, from the highest nobles to the humblest commoners. The social order here is as intricate as the woven textiles sold in the marketplace, with clear roles and expectations that keep the empire humming like a well-oiled machine. At the top, you find the emperor, the Huey Tlatoani, whose word is law and whose divine right to rule is unquestioned. You imagine his palace, a sprawling complex of stone and gardens where advisors and priests gather to discuss matters of state and ritual. Nobles wear elaborate clothing dyed with vibrant colors from cochineal insects, and their feathered headdresses shimmer in the sunlight. You might think they're just showing off, but in this society, appearance is power. Below them, the Pipiltin, nobles and high-ranking warriors manage the empire's vast bureaucracy and military campaigns. They live comfortably, but are expected to serve the state with loyalty and valor. You catch sight of a young noble practicing the art of poetry and song, a reminder that Aztec culture valued not just strength, but also beauty and intellect. The Masehualtin, or commoners, make up the backbone of the city. Farmers tend the chinampas, artisans craft pottery and jewelry, and merchants, those crafty Pochteca spies we met earlier, travel far and wide. You hear the chatter of families preparing meals of tamales and beans, the scent of chili and chocolate filling the air. Life here is hard but vibrant, full of community and tradition. A quirky detail: commoners sometimes wore sandals made from maguey fibers, which could leave a distinct footprint. This little fact has helped archaeologists trace ancient paths and trade routes. Who knew your shoes could be a historical breadcrumb? Historians still argue whether Aztec society was rigidly hierarchical or allowed for social mobility through achievements in war or trade. You see hints of both: warriors rising through valor, merchants gaining wealth and influence. But the system is undeniably structured. Education is universal and strict. Children learn not only reading and writing, but also the importance of discipline and respect. You imagine the stern teachers and the lessons on history, religion, and warfare. The city's future depends on these young minds. As you wander, you notice the city's public spaces bustling with activity, ball courts echoing with the sounds of play, temples busy with offerings, and markets alive with the hum of commerce. The air is thick with the scent of cooking fires and the sound of laughter, debate, and song. Yet beneath this lively surface, you sense an undercurrent of tension. The empire's expansion has created enemies, and the demands of the gods grow ever more insistent. The social order, so carefully maintained, feels like a delicate dance on a knife's edge. You pause by a canal, watching the water ripple gently, reflecting the city's towering temples. This is a world of order and chaos intertwined, where every person plays a part in the grand tapestry of Aztec life. You lace up the sandals of a young Aztec warrior, feeling the weight of his obsidian-edged macuahuitl strapped to your side and the steady thump of your own heartbeat. Today, you prepare for battle, not just any fight, but a rite of passage, a step on the warrior's path that defines your honor and place in society. The city's drumbeats echo in your chest as you join other warriors in the plaza, their faces painted with fierce colors and jaguar spots, ready to prove themselves to the gods and their people. The warrior's life is one of discipline and glory. From childhood, you've trained relentlessly, learning to wield the spear, the bow, and the deadly macuahuitl, a wooden sword embedded with razor-sharp obsidian blades. You practice formations and tactics, guided by veterans who push you to your limits. The Aztecs prized capturing enemies alive for sacrifice, so skill and precision are as important as brute strength. You can almost taste the adrenaline mixed with the dust of the training ground. Warriors are more than fighters. They are the empire's backbone, expanding its reach and securing tribute from conquered peoples. Your status depends on the number of captives you bring back, and with each victory, you climb the ranks, from the common jaguar or eagle warrior to the elite orders that wear elaborate costumes and command respect. Historians still argue whether the warrior culture was primarily about conquest or a complex system of social mobility and religious devotion. Either way, it's clear that battle is woven into the Aztec identity. A quirky fact: some warriors wore helmets shaped like animal heads, jaguars, eagles, even crocodiles, to channel the spirit of these fierce creatures. Imagine charging into battle, looking like a prehistoric superhero. It's both intimidating and a bit theatrical, like cosplay with deadly consequences. You join the procession to the battlefield, the city's temples, watching silently as you march. The air is thick with the scent of copal and sweat, the murmurs of prayers to Huitzilopochtli urging you onward. You feel the weight of expectation, not just from your comrades, but from the gods themselves. This is more than a fight. It's a sacred duty. The battlefield is a chaotic dance of clashing weapons and shouted commands. You dodge a spear, parry a blow, and seize your chance to capture an enemy warrior. The thrill is intoxicating, but so is the fear, because failure means dishonor, and dishonor can be worse than death. Back in the city, your success will be celebrated with feasts and ceremonies, your name whispered with respect. But the warrior's path is never easy. You know that each battle could be your last, and that the gods demand sacrifices, not just from the enemy, but sometimes from your own ranks. As you rest by a canal, the water reflecting the fiery sunset, you think about the future. Will you rise to the elite ranks? Will your deeds echo in the songs of poets? Or will you become just another forgotten footnote in the empire's vast story? The city hums around you, alive with promise and peril, and you steel yourself for whatever comes next. After all, in Tenochtitlan, the warrior's path is the path to immortality or oblivion. You stand on the causeway, eyes squinting toward the horizon, where the shimmering blue of Lake Texcoco meets the sky, and there, like ghostly shadows, strange sails appear. The Spanish ships, massive and alien, cut through the water with a slow, deliberate menace. The city's usual hum of life falters for a moment, replaced by whispers and wide-eyed speculation. You feel a knot tighten in your stomach because these aren't just visitors, they're harbingers of upheaval. The arrival of Hernán Cortés and his conquistadors is unlike anything the Aztecs have seen. Clad in shining armor that glints like the sun itself, wielding weapons that roar and spit fire, these men seem more like gods or demons than mere mortals. You watch as they disembark their horses, creatures unknown to you, snorting and stamping, adding to the surreal spectacle. It's no wonder the Aztecs initially thought them divine, a belief that would soon prove both a blessing and a curse. Historians still argue whether Moctezuma's initial hospitality was a strategic move or a fatal miscalculation. Some say he hoped to incorporate these newcomers into his empire's grand design. Others believe he was paralyzed by fear and superstition. Either way, the tension is palpable as the two worlds collide. A quirky tidbit: the Aztecs had never seen horses before, so they called them deer with big feet. Imagine trying to make sense of these strange beasts galloping across your sacred land. It's like encountering a unicorn, but with a lot more noise and poop. You feel the city's mood shift, curiosity mingling with suspicion, awe blending with dread. Markets slow down, and priests murmur warnings, interpreting the foreigner's arrival as a sign from the gods. You overhear debates about whether these men are the return of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, who, according to legend, promised to come back from the east. The idea sends shivers through the city, both hopeful and terrifying. As the conquistadors make their way toward the city center, you notice the meticulous way they map the terrain and gather intelligence. They are outsiders, yes, but not fools. Their ambitions are clear, and their thirst for gold and glory is insatiable. You recall the city's vast wealth, temples dripping with gold, markets bursting with goods, and you understand why these men have come. But you also sense the fragility beneath the grandeur. The city's defenses, its alliances, and even its gods may not be enough to withstand this new threat. The sun sets behind the distant mountains, casting long shadows over Tenochtitlan. The city holds its breath, caught between wonder and fear as the whispers of change grow louder. You wonder how long this uneasy peace will last, and whether you will live to see the next dawn. You stand face to face with Hernán Cortés, the man whose name will echo through history as both conqueror and catalyst. The air between you crackles with tension, curiosity, and a deep mistrust that neither side fully understands yet. Cortés, with his steel armor gleaming and eyes sharp as obsidian blades, steps into the heart of Tenochtitlan, a city that has never seen anything like him or his men. The meeting is a dance of words and gestures, a delicate balance between diplomacy and intimidation. Moctezuma, the emperor, greets Cortés with cautious respect, offering gifts of gold and precious feathers, hoping to appease these strange visitors. You watch as the two leaders exchange pleasantries, each sizing the other up, aware that this encounter could change everything. Historians still argue whether Moctezuma's decision to welcome Cortés was an act of wisdom or a fatal error. Some suggest he hoped to use the Spaniards as allies against rival tribes. Others believe he was paralyzed by prophecy and fear. Either way, the meeting sets a precarious stage for what's to come. A quirky tidbit: Cortés reportedly used a translator named Malinche, a native woman who spoke both Nahuatl and Mayan, as well as Spanish. She became indispensable, navigating the tangled web of languages and loyalties, a real-life Rosetta Stone with a flair for diplomacy and survival. Without her, the conquest might have looked very different. You notice the Spaniards' fascination with the city's temples, markets, and the emperor's palace. Their eyes gleam with greed and wonder, but also confusion. They struggle to grasp the complex social and religious fabric that holds Tenochtitlan together. To them, the city's grandeur is both awe-inspiring and alien. Meanwhile, the Aztecs whisper among themselves, debating whether these men are gods, demons, or merely mortals with strange powers. The priests warn of omens, while warriors prepare quietly for the possibility of conflict. You feel the city's heartbeat quicken, caught between hope and dread. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows over the city, you realize this meeting is not just a diplomatic exchange. It's the opening move in a game of survival, power, and destiny. The stakes are nothing less than the future of Tenochtitlan itself. You wonder how history will remember this moment, the handshake that sealed the fate of an empire or the beginning of its unraveling. For now, you hold your breath and watch the story unfold. You find yourself caught in the tangled web of alliances and betrayals that ripple beneath the surface of Tenochtitlan's grand facade. The arrival of the Spaniards has stirred old rivalries and ambitions among the indigenous peoples, turning friend into foe and foe into uneasy ally. You watch as Cortés skillfully exploits these fractures, forging alliances with tribes long oppressed by the Aztecs, like the Tlaxcalans, who see the newcomers as potential liberators. The politics here are a maze of shifting loyalties and hidden agendas. You overhear whispered conversations in marketplaces and temple courtyards, plots hatched in shadows, promises made and broken. The city's strength lies in its unity, but that unity is fragile, strained by years of conquest and tribute demands. Cortez's arrival is the spark that threatens to ignite these tensions into open rebellion. Historians still argue whether the indigenous alliances with the Spaniards were acts of survival, opportunism, or tragic miscalculations. Some view these alliances as betrayal. Others see them as desperate gambles in a brutal game. Either way, they change the course of history. A quirky tidbit, the Tlaxcalans, fierce warriors themselves, introduced the Spaniards to indigenous warfare tactics and terrain knowledge, essentially becoming their guides and military advisors. It's like teaming up with your rival to take down the neighborhood bully. Awkward but effective. You sense the city's atmosphere growing more volatile. Nobles debate strategy in lavish halls, while commoners murmur anxiously in the streets. The emperor's authority is challenged not just by the Spaniards, but by internal dissent. You feel the weight of impending conflict pressing down like the heavy summer heat. The Spaniards, for their part, are not just conquerors, but also diplomats and manipulators. They promise freedom and protection to their new allies, but their true aim is domination. You see how they use gifts, threats, and religious fervor to bend the city's complex political landscape to their will. As you move through the city, you notice the subtle shifts, guards more alert, priests performing extra rituals, merchants closing stalls earlier. The tension is a living thing, pulsing beneath the surface, waiting for the spark that will set it ablaze. You realize that this moment is not just about armies clashing, but about the fragile alliances and betrayals that will decide the fate of an empire. The game is on, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The siege begins, and you find yourself trapped within the walls of a city transformed into a fortress. The once bustling marketplaces and vibrant canals now echo with the sounds of war, clashing weapons, shouted orders, and the relentless pounding of feet on stone. The Spanish and their indigenous allies have encircled Tenochtitlan, cutting off supplies and strangling the lifeblood of the empire. You trudge along the causeways, barricaded and guarded, feeling the weight of desperation settle over the city like a suffocating fog. The defenders rally, determined to protect their home. Aztec warriors, their faces painted with fierce determination, man the walls and launch sorties against the besiegers. You can almost taste the dust and smoke mingling in the air as fires flare and arrows whistle. The canals, once serene and bustling with canoes, become battlefields where warriors fight amid the reeds and water lilies. The city's ingenious engineering, its causeways, canals, and chinampas, becomes both a shield and a trap. Historians still argue whether the siege was a prolonged, brutal blockade or punctuated by intense, decisive battles. Either way, it was a grueling ordeal that tested the limits of human endurance and spirit. You feel the strain in every corner of the city, from the exhausted soldiers to the anxious families huddled in their homes. A quirky tidbit: during the siege, the Aztecs reportedly used alligator-like creatures called axolotls as a food source when supplies ran low. Imagine turning to a giant salamander for dinner. Talk about desperate times, calling for desperate measures. The city's food stores dwindle, and hunger gnaws at the population. You witness the grim reality of starvation and disease spreading through cramped quarters. The once lively plazas grow eerily quiet, save for the occasional wail or whispered prayer. The gods seem distant, and the city's fate hangs in the balance. Amid the chaos, you catch glimpses of resilience and hope, families sharing what little they have, priests continuing rituals to appease the gods, warriors fighting with a ferocity born of love for their home. Yet, the siege tightens like a noose, and the city's walls begin to feel less like protection and more like a prison. As night falls, you stand atop the temple steps, gazing out over a city under siege, beautiful, defiant, and teetering on the edge of collapse. The battle for Tenochtitlan is no longer just a fight for territory. It's a fight for survival, identity, and the soul of an empire. You feel the invisible enemy creeping through the city's crowded streets, smallpox and other European diseases that spread faster than any sword or arrow. The siege has already drained Tenochtitlan's strength, but now this silent killer turns the tide in ways no one could have imagined. Families fall ill overnight, and the once vibrant city begins to wither beneath the weight of sickness and despair. The Aztecs have no immunity to these foreign illnesses, and the impact is devastating. You watch as entire households vanish, leaving empty homes and grieving neighbors. The priests, who once held the city's spiritual reins, struggle to interpret these new plagues. Are they curses from angry gods, punishments for past sins, or signs of the empire's doom? The uncertainty gnaws at everyone, deepening the city's collective anxiety. Historians still argue about the exact role disease played in the fall of Tenochtitlan, whether it was the primary cause or a tragic side effect of war and conquest. Either way, its impact is undeniable, tipping the balance in favor of the conquistadors. A quirky tidbit: some Aztecs believed that smallpox was sent by the god Tezcatlipoca, the god of night and sorcery, as a punishment. This belief added a supernatural layer to an already terrifying epidemic, blending fear of disease with fear of divine wrath. You notice how the disease doesn't discriminate. Nobles and commoners alike succumb, and the social fabric begins to unravel. The emperor himself falls ill, his once commanding presence reduced to a shadow of doubt and weakness. The city's morale plummets as hope fades. Amid the chaos, you see acts of kindness and courage, families caring for the sick, strangers sharing scarce resources, priests performing last rites. Yet, the scale of suffering is overwhelming, and the city's defenses falter not just from enemy attacks, but from the invisible plague ravaging its people. The canals, once bustling with life, now carry the bodies of the dead, floating silently beneath the moonlight. The air is thick with the scent of decay and mourning. You feel the weight of loss pressing down, a heavy shroud over the city's once bright spirit As you watch the city struggle to breathe beneath the twin assaults of siege and disease, you realize that Tenochtitlan's fall is not just a story of conquest, but of resilience, tragedy, and the fragile nature of human life. You stand at the heart of the city, watching as Montezuma, the emperor, faces a fate as tragic as the empire he rules. Once a figure of immense power and divine authority, he now seems a man caught in a storm he cannot control. His eyes, once sharp with command, flicker with uncertainty as the conquistadors tighten their grip on Tenochtitlan. Montezuma's downfall is a complex tale of politics, prophecy, and human frailty. Some say he was a captive, a puppet used by Cortés to pacify the city. Others argue he tried to maintain peace to save his people from destruction. Historians still debate whether Montezuma's death was murder, suicide, or the tragic result of a city's unraveling. Whatever the truth, his fall marks a turning point, a symbol of an empire's crumbling heart. You watch as his presence fades, replaced by chaos and fear. The city's leaders scramble to fill the power vacuum, but the unity that once held Tenochtitlan together begins to fracture. The priests' chants grow frantic, and the warriors' resolve wavers. The emperor was more than a ruler. He was the living link between gods and people. Without him, the city feels unmoored. A quirky tidbit: Montezuma was said to have worn a headdress made of hundreds of quetzal feathers, shimmering like liquid emeralds. It was so prized that after the conquest, it disappeared. Some say hidden away, others lost forever. Imagine losing your crown jewels in the chaos of war. You sense the city's grief as a collective wound. The streets whisper his name, and murals depict his rise and fall. His story becomes legend, a cautionary tale of power's fragility and the weight of destiny. As the sun sets behind the shattered temples, you realize that Montezuma's death is not just a personal tragedy, but a reflection of the empire's fate. The god's favor has shifted, and the city's soul trembles on the edge of oblivion. You wonder how history will judge him, tyrant or tragic hero, wise ruler or doomed king. For now, you hold your breath and watch the empire's heart falter. You find yourself wading through the flooded canals of Tenochtitlan, the city's watery veins, now a grim stage for the final, desperate battles. The once vibrant streets, alive with markets and festivals, have become battlegrounds where blood mixes with lake water, and the echoes of war drown out the city's heartbeat. You can feel the weight of exhaustion and despair pressing down as the Aztecs make their last stand against the relentless conquistadors and their indigenous allies. The fighting is brutal and chaotic. Warriors clad in jaguar skins clash with armored Spaniards wielding swords and muskets. Canoes become war canoes, darting through narrow waterways, while the city's causeways are barricaded and fiercely defended. You dodge flying arrows and the sharp hiss of gunfire, the air thick with smoke and the cries of the wounded. The city itself seems to resist, its canals and causeways both refuge and trap. Historians still argue about the exact sequence of these final battles, whether the Aztecs launched coordinated counterattacks or fought a series of desperate, fragmented skirmishes. Either way, the courage and tenacity of the defenders are undeniable. You witness acts of heroism and sacrifice that echo through time. A quirky tidbit: during the fighting, some Aztec warriors reportedly used burning torches tied to arrows to set Spanish ships ablaze. Imagine flaming arrows lighting up the night sky, a fiery spectacle amid the chaos. It's like medieval warfare meets a fireworks show with much higher stakes. Despite their valor, the Aztecs are outmatched by the Spaniards' weaponry and the devastating impact of disease. The city's infrastructure crumbles, and the once majestic temples bear the scars of battle. You see families fleeing through alleys, carrying what little they can salvage, while priests perform last rites amid the ruins. As the sun sets on the city's final day of resistance, you feel a profound sadness mixed with awe. Tenochtitlan's fall is not just a military defeat, but the end of an era, a civilization's heartbeat fading into the night. You wonder what stories will survive, what lessons will be whispered through generations, and how the city's spirit might live on beneath the layers of history and water. You wander through the ruins of Tenochtitlan, a city once bursting with life now hushed under a blanket of silence and ash. The grand temples you admired in your dreams lie shattered, their stones scattered like forgotten memories. The canals, once sparkling arteries of commerce and culture, are clogged with debris and the remnants of battle. You feel the weight of loss pressing on your chest, a sorrow so deep it almost silences the birdsong. The conquistadors have claimed the city, but what remains is a ghostly echo of its former glory. You see the remnants of homes, markets, and gardens, now overgrown or trampled. The vibrant colors of woven cloth and painted murals have faded, replaced by the dull gray of ruin. The city's spirit seems to linger in the air, a whisper of resilience amid devastation. Historians still debate how much of Tenochtitlan was destroyed during the conquest versus what was lost over time due to neglect and rebuilding. Some argue that the Spanish deliberately razed the city to erase Aztec culture. Others suggest that natural decay and urban development played a larger role. Either way, the loss is palpable. A quirky tidbit: beneath the ruins, archaeologists have uncovered layers of the city's past, ancient fish bones, fragments of pottery, and even the remains of axolotls, those strange salamanders you met earlier. It's like the city's history is buried in a time capsule, waiting to be rediscovered. You walk past the remnants of the Templo Mayor, imagining the ceremonies that once filled its steps with music and smoke. Now, the silence is broken only by the distant calls of fishermen on the lake, their boats gliding over waters that have reclaimed much of the island. The people who survived the conquest have been scattered, their culture suppressed but not extinguished. You sense that Tenochtitlan's story is far from over. It lives on in whispered legends, in the bloodline of its descendants, and in the stones beneath your feet. As dusk falls, you feel the city's heartbeat, faint but steady, a reminder that even in ruin, life endures. The past and present mingle here, and you carry their stories with you as you step away from the shattered heart of an empire. You trace the echoes of Tenochtitlan's legacy as it ripples through time, weaving into myths, art, and the ongoing scholarship that seeks to understand what was lost and what endures. The city that once ruled the Valley of Mexico has become a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in defeat, culture and memory persist like stubborn weeds breaking through cracked stone. The Aztec story lives on in vibrant murals, intricate codices, and the Nahuatl language still spoken by thousands today. Artists and historians alike draw inspiration from the city's grandeur and tragedy, exploring its complex social structures, religious beliefs, and breathtaking architecture. You can almost hear the whispers of poets and scholars debating the empire's meaning across centuries. Historians still argue about the best way to interpret Aztec culture, whether to view it through the lens of conquest and loss, or as a vibrant civilization with its own intrinsic value. This debate shapes how Tenochtitlan is remembered and taught, influencing everything from textbooks to museum exhibits. A quirky tidbit: the Mexican flag features the very symbol that guided the Mexica, a golden eagle perched on a prickly pear cactus, devouring a snake. It's a powerful emblem of identity and survival, a nod to a city that rose from the swamp and refused to be forgotten. You wander through modern Mexico City, built atop the ruins of Tenochtitlan, noticing how the ancient and the contemporary coexist. Beneath skyscrapers and bustling streets lie the foundations of temples and canals, a layered history visible to those who know where to look. The city's legacy is also a story of cultural fusion, indigenous traditions blending with Spanish influences to create a rich, complex tapestry. Festivals, cuisine, language, and art all bear the marks of this encounter, a testament to survival and adaptation. As you reflect, you realize that Tenochtitlan's fall was not an end, but a transformation. The city's spirit endures in the hearts of its descendants and in the ongoing quest to understand its past. It's a story of loss and hope, destruction and rebirth. You carry this legacy with you, a whisper from the past that continues to shape the present and inspire the future. You settle into the quiet darkness as the whispers of the past swirl around you, carrying the weight of centuries and the soft echoes of a city that once stood proud on the lake. Tenochtitlan's story is one of grandeur and tragedy, of gods and warriors, of resilience and loss. As night deepens, you feel the city's spirit gently fading into the shadows, like a candle's flame flickering against the vastness of history. The fall of Tenochtitlan teaches you about the fragility of even the mightiest empires, how power can be both dazzling and fleeting. It reminds you that history is not just about battles and rulers, but about people, families, children, dreamers who lived, loved, and struggled beneath the towering temples and vibrant markets. Their stories ripple through time, inviting you to listen closely. You breathe in the cool night air, imagining the soft lapping of lake waters against the city's ancient stones, the distant murmur of prayers carried on the breeze. The gods' voices grow quiet, their demands momentarily stilled. The city rests, wrapped in the gentle embrace of night, waiting for the dawn of remembrance. A quirky thought drifts in. Perhaps somewhere beneath the modern city, the axolotl still swims, a living relic of a world long gone, reminding you that life finds a way to endure, even in the most unexpected places. Historians still debate many aspects of Tenochtitlan's fall, the motivations, the consequences, the untold stories. But one thing is clear. The city's legacy is a whisper that refuses to be silenced, a call to remember and learn. As your eyes grow heavy, you feel a calm settling over you. The past and present entwine, and you drift toward dreams where the eagle still perches on the cactus, where the city's heartbeat echoes softly beneath the stars. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let the whispers of Tenochtitlan lull you into a peaceful sleep. The night wraps around you like a soft blanket, the echoes of Tenochtitlan's story settling gently into your mind. You've walked through bustling markets, stood atop towering temples, and felt the pulse of a city alive with gods and warriors. Now, as the world quiets, you carry those whispers with you, stories of resilience, loss, and the enduring spirit of a people who shaped history. Breathe slowly, letting the images fade into a calm haze. The shimmering canals, the vibrant festivals, the fierce battles, they all dissolve into the gentle rhythm of your breath. The city's heartbeat slows, and the gods' voices soften, inviting you to rest. Remember, history is not just about the past. It's a mirror reflecting our own hopes, fears, and dreams. Tenochtitlan's fall is a reminder that even in darkness, light persists, that even when empires crumble, the human spirit endures. Feel the cool night air, the distant murmur of water, and the soft hum of the fan blending into a lullaby. Let your thoughts drift like canoes on a quiet lake, carrying you toward peaceful dreams. Thank you for joining this journey through time. May the whispers of Tenochtitlan stay with you, a gentle reminder that every ending holds the promise of a new beginning.